I'm Madelyn Blair, and this is Unlocked, a show all about opening possibilities. Because if you're serious about your career, you know you're going to be hitting challenges. And we want to help you open the possibilities so that when the unexpected occurs, you can move on. Now, today we're also streaming to YouTube on my channel, Madelyn Blair. And that means for those of you who are watching from there, you can ask us questions using the chat function. You can put your comments in, and I'll be checking those periodically so I can bring those questions right to our guests. All right, let's get on with things. You know, Unlocked is about helping people who are serious about their careers to learn strategies, tips, practices, ideas about how to make the pursuit of that career easier and more successful, more fulfilling. And when we use the word career, we often think of business or a profession. We don't usually think of artists. Yet there is certainly a lot of business in the world of art, and there are professionals in the world of art. Today, we're going to put the spotlight, pun intended, on not one, but hopefully two artists who will be talking about how they have pursued their artistic careers. For those of you who feel a calling to some form of artistic expression, you may hear about possibilities for achieving that expression. Okay, let's bring on Laura Barron.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. I was just practicing now.
And why not?
You got to keep the art going at every moment. So I'm really happy to be here with you. This is awesome.
Oh, thank you. Well, let me let the audience know a little bit about you. My first guest is Laura Barron. Laura is a celebrated singer-songwriter in the Washington, D.C. area. Her award-winning music combines jazz, pop, and indie folk. And her latest album, Breakfast with Buddha, was a 2022 Whammy finalist. And when you come back on, you're going to tell me what Whammy is.
What the heck that means.
What the heck that means. Now, I've known Laura for more than 20 years and have enjoyed her music at concerts, at parties, and even at my husband's and my wedding anniversary celebration.
Oh, yes.
She is also a mother of two amazing young people. Laura, welcome to Unlocked.
I'm so happy to be here.
Oh.
But
tell me about Whammy, and
right.
then we'll introduce our second guest.
Sure. Well, Whammy is an acronym for the Washington Area Music Awards. And it's our DC Grammys. So it's our way of honoring, the artists, all different kinds of genres in the area. In 2014, I won for the folk album, folk artist, and song of the year, which was was from my Heart of the Great Known album. So it's a respected organization, and it's both being recognized by your peers and also by, judges that are in the music industry.
Fabulous. Well, let me, without further ado, introduce our second guest, because my next guest is Chris Brown. Now, I met Chris. Hi, Chris. Just in April of this year, so less than 2 months ago. Right. And when I walked into his gallery called Modern Country Art, I was immediately struck by the energy in his work. And when I picked out one piece, it turned out to be the one piece he was saving for himself. He's a fascinating path to his current gallery in a small town in Texas called Winsboro. And he's also an award-winning winner artist. So Chris, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here and getting to meet you too, Laura. Heard amazing things about you as well.
Very nice to meet you, Chris. I'm looking forward to seeing your work.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Well, since there are three of us today, I'm going to invite the two of you to feel comfortable to ask each other questions as well. Now, if it gets too rowdy, I'll just mute everybody. But I know that's not going to happen. Let's see if there's anything else I need to go over. No, I think that's it, because I want to start with having you share with the audience a little bit about the path. Artists, I think, walk a different path. Laura, can we start with you?
Oh boy. Well, I think I was fortunate that I started playing the guitar at a very young age. And so when you're going through like your adolescence and you're changing and you're having your challenges, I was able to pick up my instrument and begin to learn the first chords. And I was playing in coffee houses when I was like whatever it is, 13 or 14, co-writing music. And, it was like we had these awesome coffee houses in JFK High School where I went in Silver Spring. And, people were just, we thought we were pretty cool, but it was the beginning of something. And so, that has stuck with me for my whole life. And I've taken a lot of education in that regard. But I guess I'm fortunate that my songwriting has followed me through all my stages of development in my life. And so I've seen it grow, and that's been a gift for me, I have to say.
Fabulous. So you started really, really young.
I did, and I thought I wanted to be just like Joni Mitchell.
Oh,
Stills
love
National
Joni.
Band.
I love
So,
Joni.
those are in my blood, and they fed into everything that I did.
So Chris, how about you? Your path was not quite so straight.
Well, when I look back on it, I think it happened exactly in the order it was supposed to happen. Like Laura, you said you knew at an early age. Well, I think we were given this gift way before we even like at birth. We just have to find a way to tap into it or be guided to that gift. And if I look back, I'm from Paris, Texas, a small town. It's about 25,000, but it's still a small town. And I lost my dad at an early age in a car accident. He was hit by a drunk driver, and our teachers, there's 5 siblings, and my teachers saw something, especially my art teachers, saw something in me that they focused on, and they knew I was using that as an outlet to get through whatever I was grieving, get through whatever I was doing, to cope. It was my coping mechanism. And so thank God I had my art teachers to see that in me. And along the way, always pretty much guided me in the right direction, because I believe if we don't have that guidance, we may end up somewhere completely different, right? And so all along the way, my artwork followed me. There were times I gave up on it, but it never gave up on me. And even as an adult, I always kind of put it on the back burner. And now I surrendered to it, and it's on the front burner. And not only do I get to have this gallery and sell my work in Winsboro, Texas, of all places, but it's successful. People are driving in. We had an opening last weekend, had a couple drive in 4.5 hours just to see a piece that they'd seen online.
Wow.
So they could see it in person, and they ended up buying it. So that's one thing. But the goal, I think the greatest thing about this is I get to inspire other artists, and there are artists that are coming in that have no direction, that have this gift, and they're coming in for advice and for direction, and I get to be that outlet, or I get to be that person, or I get to be that beacon for them, which only makes my artwork, that feeds fuel into my artwork, and I get to literally sing about that. And I think we have a lot of artists do have a totally different way of life and a way of thinking, because we use the right brain and so a right side of our brain. So that's our genius. I know that now. So
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, I'm curious as to how the two of you stayed on it, because I know the challenges. In this society, we don't really honor artists very much. Oh yes, the big stars, of course, but the person, what I call the local artist, is much different. Laura, what keeps you going? Keeps you at this?
It's interesting because I I released an album like a year ago in last February. And so now I'm not really planning, although my producer wouldn't want to hear me say this. I don't have a date on the calendar, right, to go into the studio. I'm kind of in that in-between place, and I'm like, okay, I'm writing some stuff, but nothing's like really totally ready to go. So I'm thinking, okay, well, what's keeping me going? I already have a number of albums out. I've done a lot of shows. I have shows coming up. What is it? And it's a question you ask yourself as an artist all the time. And it's always comes down to two things. You feel like you have something to say, and you feel like you want to try to give back somehow and inspire people. And you also, I guess there's a third, that as an artist, you kind of have a responsibility. If you came here with this gift, it's like your job to share it. And thus, you have to keep it alive and you have to feed it. So it's like kind of a whole lifestyle.
Chris, how about you? You hinted at this, but because you said that art kind of just keeps following you.
It's in my DNA. I have no choice. And the older I get, the voice of my gift speaks louder to me and say, you've got to do more. You're running out of time. Do more, do more, do more. And it's weird. I once I really surrendered to it, the doors really kind of started flying open and the opportunities started flying open. And then the responsibility gets bigger. But I mean, when the opportunity and your preparation come together, that's where the miracle happens, right? So that's what has happened. And in order for me to honor that miracle and honor this gift, I have to give it 110% now. So we all have something to contribute. We're all creators on this planet. We all have something to contribute, but not all of us have the opportunity, and not all of us prepare for those two to meet. And a lot of times in other jobs that I've had, it wasn't that I wasn't, they say be ready for what you ask. They say be careful what you ask for. You got to be ready for what you ask for, because a lot of times you're going to get it and it's going to look a totally different way, but you got to be prepared. And so finally, I think I've let those two come together in a time in my life where I was ready and prepared and excited about it too. So,
it's interesting to hear the two of you talk about this, because one of the things I do when I'm helping people with resilience is I say, to begin with, your energy really comes out of your purpose. And for you, it's an artistic expression. For me, I know my purpose. I mean, it took me 50 years to discover it, but I know my purpose. And it's to help each person be the real thing that they were created to be. I mean, I always say, if you're a tomato plant, I want you to make the best red tomato that there ever was. And that's what I do with people. So I'm really linking up very much with what you're saying about this in terms of what keeps you going. It's that purpose driven. But there are always difficulties. And I'm curious as to how you actually prepare for those moments of difficulties. Laura, how about you?
Whoa.
Well, you can pass it to Chris if you want.
It's interesting. It's almost the same way that you prepare for, you have to, the moment of difficulties will come. Either you didn't get the record deal, or your song wasn't chosen to be licensed for the TV show, or you didn't quite get the show, or the show happens and there wasn't as many people in the audience, or something really great happened, but it didn't lead to the next great thing, right? So what do? You keep going back to your purpose. And for me, a lot of times I get my guitar and I just start playing, and I feel the healing energy coming through me and the inspiration. And I remember who I am. So that And it's also like a feeling of, it feels good. It feels like you're home. You know, it's like your starting out point. And then you're back grounded in yourself, and then you can take the next step. But there are constant challenges as an artist. It's amazing that you keep going. It's because you love the art and you are the art. And that also feeds you that you can keep going. You know, if you hated what you did, you would just never do it. That would be it, because it's so challenging to be an artist. You would just stop, you know.
You would just stop. It would be much easier to stop. That's right.
Yeah.
Chris, does that sound familiar to you?
Oh my God, completely. You nailed it by saying healing, because what we forget as artists that this is really our superpower. It has superpowers to heal us, to get us, like, the only way to get through those rough and toughest moments is to go through it and experience it. And that's when we can really tap into our art, whether you start painting and you have your blue period and or you end up singing a very sad ballad, but you still got through it by tapping into your craft or your genius or your art. And that's one of the things that I've learned too, is like it it was always there for me to fall back on. And if I didn't want to do it myself, I would either go to a museum, I'd go to a gallery, I'd start looking at other people's artwork to be inspired. And we can do that with music. We can do that with anything when it comes to art. And art is a language of its own. And we can go to another country and do the same thing and tap into it by looking at other people's art, listening to other people's music. That's how I get through it. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. It's just you lean on this gift that we've been given, and we forget it's there a lot of times. That's how we can get through it and heal. So
I love the fact that for both of you, there is a physicality that you can lean on. You know, in my case, I have to find a person who wants to talk to me. I can't just sort of gin it up with a paintbrush or a guitar. So in a way, that's a real, I'll call it an advantage that you have that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, like I just went out of town to my son's college graduation, and it was very exciting, but it was only going to be for a couple of days, and the car was packed and loaded up. So I didn't bring my guitar. And I notice, I don't know if you feel like this, Chris, like you're doing your morning stuff, you're finished with your coffee, whatever. And then all of a sudden your hands are like, I want to touch the guitar. I'm used to it. It's my place I go.
right.
It's almost like I joke, people have a cigarette, but I grab my guitar. And it's like, it's a part of my body, I guess, at this point.
It's your security blanket, kind of, right?
Yeah, it is. But it's a friend. It always has something nice to say.
Right. Absolutely.
You guys have probably answered this question, but I'm going to stretch you a bit. Let's say that I'm thinking about moving into art. I mean, I actually studied art when I was young. I used to draw all the time and things like that. But it's not the center part of my life. But let's say I wanted to do that. What are some things I need to be thinking about? What are some factors that I need to take into account so that I can make a decision in terms of really pursuing art?
You want to take it?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Chris. You can start.
I would say, first of all, don't be so hard on yourself. As an artist, we are our worst critics. And if you start, even in this time of my career, I've started and I'm like, I hate this. I put it to the side and I come back to it. But we don't give up, for one thing. And two, don't worry about what other people are going to think about it. I mean, that's the main thing, is because if you can get past that, I think the number one thing is going into it with the courage of knowing that there is a possibility that you might be really good at this. You know, we forget to be courageous. We forget to rest in the possibilities of what is coming. And and I think those are the main things. Even as an artist, as a musician, we have to continue to be curious, because that curiosity will take us to maybe a new song, a new form of art. And I try not to be so hard on myself, and not to worry about, is this piece going to sell? And do it for yourself, and do it for whatever that release is that you're having at the time. And not worrying about making money from it, because at the end of the day, your gift is going to be with you whether you made money on it or not, right? So just enjoy it and let it be a part of you. And I've always considered that my art is my read to my creator. And even through the darkest of times, it's always prayer to me as well when I'm painting. So there are many reasons not to give up on it, because it doesn't give up on you.
St. Francis would agree with you, by the way.
Yeah.
Laura, did you have
Well, I guess I would say one of the important things is to find community, because it's in community that you can grow, and you can get affirmation, and you can be challenged. I did a lot of songwriting. I've studied music, voice and songwriting, but one of the things that I liked the best was going to these sort of songwriting weeks or weekends with great teachers and millions of people with guitar cases. But you would be challenged to learn and grow, and yet you were with other artists. And I think that's because they're your tribe. So I think getting with your tribe helps you to see like who you are, what you're made out of. And it helps to affirm you, because sometimes you might feel different if you don't want to go into, a particular field, but like, I just want to be an artist. Like, what does that mean? And, and you need to be around other artists, and I think education is really important, because it helps you. Somebody will both see your potential and also challenge you to grow. And I know for me, some of my very favorite times has been when someone says, okay, there's your song start, go back and write something. And they might say, well, I liked this about it, but I didn't really know if that was strong. Please go back. Then you're into it.
Yeah.
Then you're growing. And then some of the excitement and satisfaction is in developing your craft. So that's, I guess, so community and craft is just a part of this. It makes it delicious as a journey.
I'm sitting here thinking, this is amazing. When I help people around resilience, there are two things that I talk about along with other things, but two was be curious. Curiosity really is part of being resilient, because you've got to see options. You've got to be looking and exploring constantly. And the other is community. We really do need community to even build our own resilience. We need community. So I love that. Absolutely love that.
I think one of the successes of the gallery is that when I decided to do this, I made a vow. I was actually painting the front door, and I was thinking, this is not going to, I took my ego out of it. This isn't going to be my gallery. This is going to be a place where I can invite all of my artistic friends to show their work. And if they don't have the courage to do it, I'm going to find some way to get them in here to promote their work so they can see what I see. Mm-hmm. And right now there's 8 of us, and they're friends. And I'll open that up later, but right now I'm focusing on the people that I've known most of my life, that I can bring in and showcase their work along with mine. And now you walk in and there's a vibe. I know that sounds weird, but there's a vibe when you.
Well, I could tell you there's a vibe, because I felt it.
Yeah, there's a vibe, and that's the greatest feeling of all, to know that I listened to those whispers, and now I'm actually getting to see the results of listening and following what my heart was saying. So anyway, community, totally community. Yes.
I really appreciate this. I had not seen this aspect in what you, that you actually formed community through the gallery. And that links back to what Laura was saying. So good. Hey, look, we've got somebody online. Let's see. Chris, say the name of this gallery again, and where is it? This is from Barb from Plexus.
Okay, Barbie, it's Winsboro, Texas, and it's about an hour and 45 minutes east of Dallas, Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the Piney Woods area of East Texas.
All of 3,500 people.
Yes. Yeah. If that's on a good day.
Wow.
33, I think, is what the sign says,
Wow.
but 35, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Let's see. I'm looking at my next question. I'm thinking, I want to shift us. I want to shift us slightly, because oftentimes people pursue a career because they need to make a living. Why don't you talk a little bit about the business, I'll call it the business side of what you're doing? I know, Laura, you've done so many beautiful albums.
Thank you. It's a challenge. I don't know what to say. The music business has gotten harder and harder because of not selling CDs and records, or I guess people are selling more records, and everybody getting all the music for free. So you have to be creative about how you're going to make some income as a musician. There's different roads that I can talk about, but I have to say that it's not the easiest profession. If you really are, really want to make money, you might go in another direction. But I have seen people that are kind of in my community that have really worked the scene, have worked with social media, have done really good advertising for themselves, that have an audience and are selling. So there is a way through it, but you have to be very perseverant and creative and patient as you move through.
Laura, as I recall, there are certain platforms that actually help artists. One that comes to mind is Patreon. Is that how you say it?
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that one?
Yes, actually, I just sort of started my own Patreon page. Patreon kind of harkens back to, I like to say, the days of the Renaissance, when the artists would have benefactors that would help them be able to create their work. So it's very cool because an artist has like a artistic page. They can show their paintings or their music, and people can give a small donation per month. It's just kind of it does really add up. People can give a little bit, and you have a big fan base that really can help the artist to say, okay, I'm working on this new project now. It's so good to know that I have these people in my corner, that they're going to go in, they're going to get certain benefits, because the people who join get benefits from the artists that they support. They may have exclusive showings of new works, or certain, music that only is for them to hear, or private concerts. But I think I like Patreon because it's like a little club, a little world, and people can say, look, I really believe in you. I'm going to give you $10 a month. I can do that. And it's so cool. I can see that you have people joining you, and I believe in you. So I think for all age artists, it's a good feeling to say, I know there's a place I can go. I don't have to sell albums. People can just say, look, you're cool, and I want to support you. So I recommend that for people's, at different stages of development. They don't even have to be that far along. They can be just making their first album, right? Or just getting into their maybe first few pieces of art. And they might say, look, this is what I'm doing. I'm new, I'm starting out, and I'd really like your support. So I really recommend Patreon. It's very cool.
Chris, any additions to this little aspect of the business side of things? You have a gallery. You've had 2 successful shows.
I get to say that. I have a gallery. I think, what has helped me tremendously, and what really, I think, set the stage where people were asking, where can we see your work? Where can we see your work? And that's, once I started hearing that, I'm like, okay, it's time. But during the pandemic, and when I first moved out here, I was looking for spaces. I didn't really see the one that spoke to me. So I started painting and posting stuff on social media. Instagram. I have a strong presence on Instagram, and then I shoot everything over to Facebook. But what I've learned is anytime I would paint something, it started out all commissions. So anytime I would paint something and sell it, I would post it. And then from that, the commissions started stacking up. And there were times that I had 5 commissions waiting for their work. And then all of a sudden I had this new group of people asking, where can I come see your work? So when those calls started coming in, that's when I knew it was time. And it's called critical mass, when the people start asking you, and you're like, okay, what do I do with this? And so it was time to open up a gallery. And when I started looking again for the space, I actually looked at the same space where I looked at 2.5 years ago, almost 3 years ago. And the woman that now has a boutique in that space had access to the space where my gallery is now. And the next thing you know, we're opening up walls, and we had 3 weeks to get it done, and we got it done. So anyway, repetition, I think definitely repetition, whether it's just where people can see you on a regular basis. I have a gallery opening every other month. And in between that, I try to fill it with either some kind of fundraiser or opening it to somebody else that can benefit from having the gallery space.
So Laura, what an interesting idea. Have a gallery of musicians.
Yeah. Well,
different approach.
Yeah, we all, we try to support each other and promote each other. And I'm in various communities where we do that.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
Sorry. Well, I think it's time for our audience to actually see and hear some of the work that you two have done. And Chris, I'm going to begin with you. And
okay.
And I as I told you, I have all of your images that you sent to me. So we can take, I don't know, not a minute, maybe 30 seconds on each one. So you can talk about it. And then Laura will play that amazing song. All right. Hold on just a sec while I do the technical part of this.
Yes.
Okay.
It's always a process.
There we go. Look at that. It figured out.
Okay, so this piece is called Resurrection, and I painted it and I created it on Good Friday. So the green is all about the green in an Easter basket. You can't see it right now, but in the corners of every one of the ornate corners, there are holes drilled into the actual frame to represent the holes in Jesus's hands and in his feet. But if you look, the colors inside of the actual painting are all Easter colors, and I like to remind people that the greatest story ever told was not about the crucifixion, because a lot of us like to rest in the crucifixion and carry the cross, but it's really about resurrecting. And when we hit bottom, the feeling of resurrecting from that is the greatest feeling and lesson of all. So that's what that piece is all about. Okay, this piece was actually done for a commission in Minnesota, and a friend who has always wanted a piece, needed a piece for her dining room, and so this one is called Happy Dance.
Happy Dance. I love it.
This piece, I've actually created 4 different paintings from this one that was in my original art show, and people thought it reminded them of the Wizard of Oz, but this one's called The Portal, and it's about finding that opening to get through to where you actually want to be. And so
love it. Now this is one of my favorites.
This one is an assemblage, and it's called Fun House. And I created it for the gallery and for the opening. There was actually the background is 2 pieces of masonite that I used for my palettes in 2000 and 2001 during the pandemic. And so I used those as the background of the piece. And it's to represent that the gallery is now my fun house. and I can do all kinds of fun things in this space. But I love to find objects and put them in to represent whatever it is that the message that I'm trying to convey.
Fabulous.
This one is called "Walk It Off," and I don't know if you can see that. When I first moved here, and if you find me on Spotify, you'll find all these playlists. But I came from Los Angeles, and in Los Angeles, I was a spin instructor, and a heated spin instructor. And so when I moved here, I didn't have that outlet to work out. So I was walking every single day, and I would make playlist for people to walk with me. And so I had this huge following of people that were walking with me around the lake. I was walking at the lake, but they would send me videos of them walking wherever they were. And so if you look closely, you can see a gentleman walking by the lake, and that's what this is.
I love these stories.
Okay, and this one is called "It's My Party." So for the first time, I have a space where I can actually, my birthday's coming up in August, that I'm going to actually throw a birthday party for myself in this space, but it'll be intimate. It'll be, I'll invite some of my closest friends, and we'll have a sit-down dinner inside the gallery. And so while I was thinking about this party, I was painting this piece. And anyway, that's what this piece is called. And it's already sold. So
now this is also one that I loved. So tell the story about this.
So this one is all about the scale of things. And it is actually 4 feet tall by 8 feet wide. And it's called Pure Imagination. And when I moved back to Texas, driving in and driving to and from Dallas, you will see these fields of flat land. And a lot of times I either have my music going, or I'm listening to a podcast, or I'm doing my creative work in my head. And in order for me to even get to that space, because in California, and a lot of times we live in areas where you don't get to see a horizon line, or you get to see distance. And I think it's really important, just for your own mindset, to be creative, to find that place where you can see, and there's just nothing but sky. There's nothing but flat land in front of you, so you can clear the slate, get rid of that mental noise that we consume on a daily basis. And so that's what this piece is about.
When I saw this the first time, I told Chris, that's a cornfield that's just tasseled.
Yes. And I actually sent you a picture of me driving, and a photo of what this looks like when I'm actually in that moment. So,
and this one I put in because I wanted them to really see the scale of what you do.
oh, they're going to be so happy that you put this in there. So, in a previous life, I was a floral designer, and the couple that actually owns this piece they were living in New York and have actually moved to Dallas and bought a big home, and now have 3 boys, and asked me if I would do a piece for their living room. And they said, as long as it represents love. So I did this huge piece. This piece is almost as big as Pure Imagination. I think it's a few inches shorter on the width side. But so the O is actually a yucca plant that is dried, the bloom of a yucca plant that's cut in half. So it kind of represents a tree that is growing, and it's painted gold. But it's probably one of my very favorite pieces I've ever done.
And this is the last one.
This is the piece that the couple drove all the way up from Austin. I just delivered it the day before yesterday. And this one is called Freedom Song. So if you look carefully, the little black marks kind of look like musical notes. They're also abstract hearts, but this was painted for my original show back in March to represent what it feels like to be free to actually create work for my own gallery and sing about it while I'm painting. And they're so happy that they came to see it. They actually got to hear the story, and it changes depending on the time of day. the light, the colors change, which is an amazing part of this painting.
Well, Chris, thank you for this wonderful, wonderful collage collection rather of your work.
Well, thank you
Now
for
I
letting
want
me
to
share it.
it was delightful to hear the stories too. So Laura, it's going to take me, let's see. We have a couple more comments. Jim Schulman says, love the flatland image. That's that imagination one. And Judy Stallwitz says, that's one of my favorites. I'm sorry, Judy, we passed by it too quickly, and so we don't know which one that was, but maybe we'll find out later. All right, let's get over to Laura's. Tell us a little bit about this song before we start it, or afterwards, whatever you want to do.
Is this the Refugee song?
Yes.
I don't know. I think maybe it'd be better for people just to see it, and then I'll make some comments afterwards.
Okay.
Wow.
I can hardly speak after that. But Laura, please tell us.
Thank you. First of all, the song was produced by Marco Delmar, a wonderful, wonderful producer out of DC. And the video was made by Mira Malcolm, who is a young, new filmmaker. And
Wonderful filmmaker.
I helped her a little bit along the way. Well, I think, what I wanted to show was that, in some ways, we're all refugees. We've all been trying to find our home, and that the indomitable power of the human spirit that goes through being lost, being homeless, not knowing where you are and where you belong, and moving forward. And I guess that we're all united in that way. We can say they are the refugees and we're the people who have homes, but no, our spirit is united. And throughout all of history, people have been wandering through the deserts, through the jungles, trying to find home. And I wanted to show not just the agony and grief of being lost, but also, as I said, the power of the human spirit that survives. So.
And I love the fact that you say we are all refugees. All of us are seeking that place that we call home. Some of us are lucky that we find it.
Right.
But
right.
All of us have that moment when we're seeking.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting because, I wrote the song and I recorded it and I only saw images in my mind. Right. And then came the decision to make it into a visual. So how do you do that respectfully? Very, very interesting process.
And I heard some Joni Mitchell in there too.
Yeah.
I could hear her influence.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Moving.
Thank you.
Still.
Thank you. Yeah, I just that's when I feel most alive. I was saying to somebody that, I was showing my producer some ideas about the song as we go through what we're going to record. And then at some point he said, Laura, what about that song, that you were working on? When do you finish that? So I finished it. And then suddenly you have a full production. I had tabla player. I have bamboo wooden flutes on there. So from an idea comes a production. As you know, as an artist, as an idea, suddenly you're expressing it in these colors and movements. And then you're sharing it with people. But at first it was just sort of a little idea or inspiration that you had. So I think that's part of also that I would say to anybody starting out as a songwriter, recording artist, that that whole experience of taking what you've written and being able to record it and share it is kind of taking it full circle. And it does something to you. When I'm recording and I'm singing behind the microphone, it's very powerful because I'm like, I'm singing it to you. I have to remember I'm communicating with the listener. And it's once again, for me as an artist, I feel one of my jobs is to help people sort of to feel something. I'm sure you feel like that, Chris, too. Like to feel an emotion, to feel maybe to feel some sadness that might be just under the surface, or some determination, or love, or those feelings maybe you don't want to feel that come up and then you release them, or the beautiful feelings that are awakened in you. I feel like that's kind of like sort of like my job or something as an artist, and that's kind of also in terms of what keeps you going. Like, as a performer, if I'm performing live and I see in someone's eyes that there's a connection there, it's very powerful. And I guess I would say that I'm sure you might relate to this, Chris. You feel like in some ways you're kind of a channel for something.
Right.
You're there.
Right.
You have your craft. You've worked on it. But then there's something else that kind of moves through and takes over sort of and speaks through you and sings through you and paints through you and communicates with other people. And then when you see their reaction, like the people who drove to see your art, it's very powerful.
I'm a true believer that we've been chosen to facilitate exactly everything that you just said. Like I hope the more like that we can put out this message too, that if there's any parents that see something special in their kids, some kind of talent, or that they push them or guide them in that direction so they can find exactly what that is. And that's part of what I think that's part of our responsibility too, is to keep it going, keep paying it forward, and giving this message to the youth of our world too, because that's who's going to keep it going after we leave, right?
Exactly.
So,
You know, Chris, you have anticipated my next question. And now I know, Laura, you're a parent. Chris, I don't know if you are or not. And what you talked about in still encouraging children. Laura, how about you? What does the parent have to do in this process when they see real talent in their child? I shouldn't say real talent. I should say
jokes. So I also get a job. No, I'm sorry. That's you can make money in the arts. But if your child is talented, it is really, you need to support them, because it doesn't really matter if they have it as a hobby or if they become wealthy doing it. It's that, honoring their gift and seeing them. I think that the best thing we can do for another artist is to see them. And if you have your child, like my daughter, we adopted her from India like 10 years ago. And she's an amazing artist. She can do like henna, and I see her, copying beautiful Indian, designs. And so I really try to affirm that in her and say, I see that, and keep going. And even my son, who plays guitar, but he's not moving in that direction, but he loved it and made him feel good, and helps him to relax. So I think it's important to value the artistic expression of our kids. I mean, I taught music to young children for many years before I got more into the adult world of singing, to little young ones when they were very first starting out, right?
right.
That was all about them learning that what is music? How do they feel it in their body? What's the value of that? Even at that young age, what does it mean that they can have a musical idea and express it? That was like so cool that they could do that.
They also have a lot to teach us too. So this 2.5 year period when I first moved out here and I was still trying to figure out what I was going to do, one of these jobs landed in my lap in Dallas, and I was actually a Manny for twins for 2.5 years. And what they taught me and how to go back and relook at life through a different lens, and be excited about the things that we take advantage of, like sunsets and the colors of leaves and birds and all of those things. Now I have that back under my belt to reflect on as I'm painting, and they have a lot. Those little kids have a lot to teach us as well as we do. Yeah.
Well, thank you both. First of all, I need to tell you, Laura, that there was a comment from YouTube that said, "Absolutely beautiful song." Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah.
So we've gotten feedback on both of you. Well, I can't believe that our hour is up, and I hate this. I just don't want to stop talking, but they're going to turn me off. So
Oh my goodness.
I wanted to say thank you to both of you again.
Thank you.
Such a privilege.
It was quite a fun conversation. I really enjoyed it. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I enjoyed seeing Chris's work, and nice to meet you, Chris.
Good to meet you too. I'm gonna start following your work now and stalking you.
I'm gonna be stalking you too. Yeah.
Okay.
Madelyn, thank you for this. Yeah.
Thank you.
So welcome. You are so welcome, both of you. Well, art has always been a part of my life. And when I was little, I drew all the time. When I was in high school, I even attended weekly lessons from a professional artist with about 6 other teenagers. That was where I learned about balance and color and perspective and composition. And those lessons have actually been active in my life ever since. As I design a workshop, I keep perspective in mind. As I lay out a page on my website, I'm keenly aware of the color choices. And when I write a book or a blog, I'm always thinking about the composition that's happening in my readers' minds. But never in my life have I pursued my art as a career. So I am absolutely in awe of my two guests today who have done so.
Well,
Thank
thank
you.
you. We've
Thank
loved
you very
being here
much.
with you, Madelyn.
Oh, thank you. Let's see. I hope you found this conversation today useful. If you have, make a comment on social media about what you learned, and we'll do differently as a result. And if you're on YouTube, click the like button, please. And as always, if you have ideas about what you'd like to hear about, just write to me at madelyn@madelynblair.com, because I love hearing from you. And if I use your topic, you will receive a copy of my Essays in Two Voices, used across 4 continents.
Wow, beautiful.
We'll be in conversation next week with Kees Hugendijk, founder of Appreciative Inquiry Academy, CFO of Constructive Unconferences, and thinking partner in strategic organization development. He'll be joining us from the Netherlands. Kees will be talking about future forming, and I hope you are as curious about that as I am. So be sure to put it on your calendar now. Join us on June 1 at noon Eastern on E360 TV or YouTube channel, Madelyn Blair. I want to thank you again for joining this segment of Unlocked. I'm Madelyn Blair, wishing you infinite possibilities as you unlock your resilience.